Hoi hoi folks, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Sean, aka Uncle Frogface, and welcome to today's video. So today I'm going to be doing an art style swap challenge. So if you haven't seen one of those before, it's where you take a well-known character and you recreate it in different people's art styles. So with January being Djinnuary, so gins and genies, I thought I would go ahead and take the most famous genie I can think of, which is the genie from Disney's Aladdin, and recreate that in different art styles. So without further ado, let's swap over cameras and we can get straight into it. So I thought I'd start off just by doing the original style. So I found a brilliant website for finding screen caps of different animations, which I'll post in the links below if I remember. But I just went through, found an interesting pose for our friend the genie, and just went about sketching this out. So on all of these I go through the same 3 steps. So I sketch it out first, then I ink, and then I colour them with some old cheap alcohol markers that I have. They're hoo markers. So I found out some interesting things about the genie while I'm doing this. So Disney characters in general, their eyebrows kind of follow a rhythm. You can go from one eyebrow to the other in this quite a nice kind of fluid line, and the genie is no different. And his head shape's kind of made up of 2 circles, a slightly squashed circle on top. But his pupils, interestingly, don't stay in his kind of eyes. They kind of migrate outside of the eye, which I found interesting. I'd never noticed that before. I did know, obviously, that the character designs in the whole Aladdin movie, the genie included, were all very fluid lines. I know they were influenced by an artist whose name escapes me. But we're done with the sketch for this, and I am inking with a dip pen. I actually went through, I've got lots of different pens for inking, but I went through and I kind of tested them all out. Some of them reacted with water, some of them reacted with alcohol ink, some of them didn't. But because I'm going to be doing a few different styles of inking, I thought I'll just use my dip pens, because I know that the ink then will be consistent and I can just use different tools for it. So this is quite a nice dip pen. This is just a cheap wooden holder from Amazon, which I think is Sapili, and it's a G nib on there. This gives a nice line variation when you're using it. You can push down a bit harder for a bit of a thicker line, or go really gently for a nice thin line. And for a simple design like this, it's really nice. So these are Pentel water brushes, which if you have a Pentel ink brush, these are exactly the same bristles, but a fraction of the price, and you can use whatever ink you like on them. So if you want to use a water soluble ink, or you want to use a waterproof ink, or you've got different colours that you want to use, definitely go ahead and use those brushes, because they're really cheap. I think it was a Marvel comic book artist who's I was watching on Amazon and saw a tip that he used those, and I've not looked back since. I absolutely love them. So here I'm just going over with some Ohuhu alcohol markers. You could do this with watercolours if you wanted to do it on watercolour paper or coloured pencils, but I thought these would give a nice colour saturation. These are actually quite old. You can see they're the old style with the bullet nib and the broad nib, so I don't have the brush ones yet, which have been out for quite a while. So I spent a day going through all of my markers and pens. I had to throw away about a dozen markers that had dried out, so I'm definitely due an upgrade. But you can see these ones I've had to go over a few times just to get the coverage that I want. It looks patchy now, but I promise it does dry nice and even. I think that's all the blue coloured in. We've got the inside of his mouth, nice red colour. And of course his tongue. And his little bead on his hair. I'm just going over once more on that blue. There we go, and that is the original Disney style Genie. So the second style is a style that I have done before and I've explored before, and this is the Dr. Seuss style. So I think the key with these kinds of challenges is to look at what makes each style unique and what makes the character unique, and to try and blend those two things together. So with Dr. Seuss, for instance, I know that the line work is very fine, so I swap out my dip pen for a crow quill nib. You have these pointy fingers, you have like a bowling pin shaped body, kind of a ball stomach, the kind of protruding lower lip and big ears. And it's just a case of working all of those with the things that the character has. So obviously you've got, you know, the cuffs on the band, you've got his little belt and his beard with the curl in it, and it's just marrying those ideas together. I thought with these style ones I'll put in full body and a lamp as well. So that's my kind of initial sketch. I'm just rubbing out a few things to make it easier in the next pass. There we go, so this is my crow quill, which I really like for fine lines. It gives a nice consistent fine line. You do have to dip it a little bit more often though, it doesn't hold quite as much ink. You might notice on the side there under the ink I have just another piece of cardstock, and I just use that as a scratch pad to kind of make sure I don't get any blobs of ink when I'm inking over. Dr. Seuss characters have these weird kind of noodly rubber hose arms, kind of classic animation style. So some of Dr. Seuss's illustrations can be, you know, very scratchy and have lots of very fine lines, so I'm going to kind of give a little bit of an indication of that, but not go overboard with that. Of course you've got these kind of extended shapes and curls and things, so that's the kind of shape language you look out for when you're doing these style challenges. And the earring that I forgot in the sketch. So I'm using the same colours for this one as I did for the classic design. And you'll notice as well that between the inking and the colouring, I'm giving the ink plenty of time to dry. I'm also going in and erasing all of the pencil lines so it's nice and clean. Sometimes alcohol markers can pick up the graphite and kind of spread it around, so just get rid of as much of that as possible. Blue, got the yellow, I'm coming in with some of the red. I think I was struggling with a pen lid there. Get that sash all nicely drawn in. And then of course the smoke on Genie is a darker blue to the rest of him. So I have this lovely blue alcohol marker that I'm coming in with. I really like this colour, it's really nice and vibrant. And there we go, that is our Dr. Seuss Genie. So for our third style, I'm going to do one of my favourite people, Tim Burton. Just because there's, you know, people think about the little skinny limbs and, you know, horrible teeth and round eyes and things like that. And actually, you know, that yes, that is there in some of the stop motion animation. I think that might be more to do with the limitations of stop motion animation, but actually if you look at Tim Burton's artwork, it's all about exaggeration. You know, fat people are incredibly fat with tiny little arms and tiny hands and feet, whereas skinny tall people are incredibly tall and skinny. So it's all about pushing those parts. He's got a very kind of distinctive line weight with his inking. So that's what I'm trying to replicate here. So I've gone with quite a skinny genie, adding a bit of the kind of ghoulishness as well. So I didn't like that arm placement. There was a little bit too much crossing over. So there we go. Much looser smoke on this one, more angular lamp. That earring again. Okay, and time to ink, and I'm back to the G nib for this one. Probably my favourite nib. We've got a twisty beard, but kind of a twisty beard. I'm really trying to vary the line weight on this to have some thicker lines and some thinner lines. Add in some of those emaciated body parts and those little skeletal fingers and these little thin little arms. Adding a little secret Jack Skellington face there in his hair for the little bead. Got a ragged cloth. Those horrible teeth. I don't know why he's got horrible teeth. I just felt like it, and that's kind of just what happened. And now time for this smoke, and I'm really just going all out on the scribbles for this one. So for the colours on this one, I wanted to have the same colour palette but desaturated. So I've got this grey first, and I'm going in. So that's going to mix with the other colours of the alcohol markers that I go over with, and it's just going to dull them out and give them that kind of dull Tim Burton vibe. I think his colours are amazing. You have these little pops of colour, but the rest is kind of this muted palette. So that's what I'm trying to emulate with this grey. Of course, leaving the eyes nice and white, and then the chisel nib just coming in for this smoke. There we go, you can see this is the same blue, but where it mixes with that grey, you get a slightly kind of washed out version of it. So that's the body colour. You get those yellow parts in, those golden parts, a little gold Jack Skellington in here. Our tattered red kind of cummerbund, whatever you want to call that, belt, and then that bit of smoke, and of course some golden yellow on the lamp. There we go, that is our Tim Burton style genie. Okay, style 4, Burch Hartman. More specifically, Fairly Odd Parents. I had a lot of fun with this one. I didn't expect to like this one as much as I did, but I really enjoyed it. So this particular style is all about kind of exaggerating simplistic shapes and pushing them. So obviously with all of these styles I looked up reference for all of them, just to have little cues on what kind of things to include. And Fairly Odd Parents is just so much fun. One of the best things I think that I incorporated on this one was the fact that Wanda and Cosmo, their crowns float detached from their heads. So I actually incorporated that into Genie's hair on this, which which I think gave a really nice Fairly Odd Parents touch. There we go. And of course that earring, which I keep forgetting and putting in at the last minute. And a really geometric, simplistic lamp at the bottom. There we go. And again, inking with the G-nib, trying to keep quite a consistent, thicker line for this one. Trying to draw any kind of circle for eyes with a dip pen is a challenge unto itself, but you just have to go for it, don't you? You just have to have fun and go for it. So you'll notice as well that with a dip pen, it's really important to kind of pull towards yourself and watch which direction the pen's going in. So that's why I turn the page so much more with a drawing like this. It's just because of the tool that I'm using. And I'm going to get that brush again, that Pentel brush pen, and just fill in eyebrows, hair, and that lovely twisty beard. Okay, and on to the colours, and again I'm using the same colour palettes. Thought I'd keep consistency across all of the drawings. With this one I wanted to try and get it as smooth as I could with all of the colours. So I'm really taking my time just to go over and over and over and really layer that alcohol marker and get a nice smooth coverage. You see I'm going over and going over. So I think this was probably one of my favourites. I'd love to hear which ones are your favourites. There's still one more to go after this one. But once you've seen all of them, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments down below. Tell me which one you think is the best, which one you prefer. I might do this kind of challenge again in the future, so if you've got any styles that you'd like to see, or even any characters that you'd like to see go through a style swap, then again, drop that down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And there we go, we have a Fairly Odd Parents Burch Hartman Genie. Finally, we have one in style of Mike Mignola and his Hellboy comic books. So Mike Mignola is an artist that I just love. His shape language is brilliant. The way that he kind of distorts and distends bodies and body features and facial features is just amazing. And people always think of him as kind of being very spot black and very heavy on the blacks, and actually I think there's more to it than that. It's, you know, it really is about the shape language and picking out that shape language with those blacks. So you can see I've really pushed the body shape on this one. An extended neck, those big forearms, which Genie does have. You know, in the Disney movie, he does have really big forearms. So I'm just extending that to work with this style. And if you've never seen or read the Hellboy comic books, you know, they are quite Lovecraftian, horror based, so they do speak to me on that level. But I would definitely recommend them. Another feature that his characters usually have are kind of completely white eyes, or kind of no pupils within the eyes. So here I'm just going through, I'm marking out some line work, but I'm also just kind of dictating where I want the spot blacks to be on this. And again, I'm trying to emphasize the body with the blacks, not just kind of put them in willy-nilly. I've got a bit of a six-pack on this genie, a bit of a buff genie. It's quite a geometric design as well. I actually spend longer on the inking with this one because of all of those blacks, but here I am again. That's that Pentel brush pen. I've not tried it with other kind of disposable water pens to see what they would be like, but I'm sure they would give a similar effect. Maybe that's something I should experiment with. I've got some kind of cheap disposable ones. Maybe I'll give that a try. But you can see how these kind of heavy blacks really defined different parts of the body. Just adding a little bit of detail, a little bit of hatching. Yeah, back to the pen. Okay, lamp and smoke. I just want to add a little bit of detail to this. Okay, and once that's all dry, it's time for the colouring. And again, same markers, same colours, just to keep that consistency across all of them. And you might notice that I did think about putting some heavy blacks in the background, but actually I wanted the design just to stand up by itself, so I removed that out from my sketch. So it's interesting because I think this one might be my favourite in terms of just a piece of art, but I think the Burch Hartman, the Fairly Odd Parents one, is my favourite in terms of kind of replicating a style. But that is our final genie done. So let's have a look at all of them. We've got our original Disney Genie. Remember to comment down below which one you like the most. This is our Dr. Seuss Genie. Our Tim Burton Twisted Genie. Our Fairly Odd Parents Genie. And finally our Mike Mignola Hellboy Genie. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this video. And as always, until next time, goodbye.